everyone, welcome to I Would Uncut. I'm your host, Lucy Molina, and I'm so excited for today's podcast guest who really elevates events to the next level by adding video and motion. And her name is Susanna Perez, and she's going to be spilling the tea on how all of you can really take the event to the next level by transforming the ambiance with video and motion. So, Susanna, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's my first time, so I'm very nervous right now, but I'm really excited, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I feel very grateful to be here, and I'm excited. Let's see what is coming.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so excited that you took the drive. You came all the way from Miami, so I appreciate that. And also, tell us a little bit about how you got started into this business, because which I'll make sure to put all her social handles down below for the business. So make sure to follow, because you are going to be all blown away by the work. Because
Thank you.
You really do transform events by creating that ambiance that takes it to the next level, like Disney level.
Okay, that's a lot, but yeah, thank you. So a little bit of background. I started in hospitality. I graduated with a marketing degree, and I was working with a staffing company, and I was helping everything that it was related to events and staffing for first a hotel, and then I moved to arenas. So I was working for a large company, setting up and recruiting everything for the events that are going to happen in the stadiums. It was concerts or either I guess games, because it was the main two events that they have. And I stayed there for a while, and then my two friends, Jose and Danny, they're the other partners of Video and Motion. They started with Video and Motion, and then I got called to be with them. And then from there, we somehow just merged. Like, they are so opposite of me, because they're like very like chill and laid back and like flowy.
So you guys are like a dynamic trio.
And then I'm more like, okay, we need to plan this and go here and there and there. And I like to have everything very settled and be on time. And then this and this and this. And they are more like flowy and relaxed. But somehow we work so good that that's what it makes Video and Motion to be Video and Motion. Because they are very skilled with all the technology and technical aspect of Video and Motion. And I bring all the making sure that everything is good, detail, being on time, making
the logistics
sure,
and kind of like event background
and everything. So at the end, like, we all bring elements that make the event or the project or whatever we're working to be perfect. We have a crew and our team leaders that also work with us, but at the end, I feel like having the three of us working in every event and in every aspect of what we do is what it makes Video and Motion to be who we are. I can do a project by myself or Danny or Jose, but at the end we always somehow, I don't know why, we always call each other, and it's like, hey, this is what I got, like, what do you think, like, should we do this, what do you think? Or like sometimes we don't make decisions without the other, just because we appreciate what the other has to bring to the table.
Each of you bring.
Exactly. And I know there are things that probably when I started I didn't know, but they were so technical and skilled in that area that they taught me, and they were like, look, this is how is it done, this is the technical part, this is what you need to look for when you're doing walkthroughs or when you're doing this, so we can be prepared. And there are things that sometimes we joke, and I'm like, the movie The Minions.
That's a good movie.
So I'm Gru, and they are the Minions. So like, because at the end it shows like I'm Gru, and Mom was like, okay, let's go, let's do this, blah 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 blah, and they're like, okay, yes, let's do it. And then they will call me, and they're like, hi, okay, so impossible thing to do. Can you do this and this and this? And somehow they know I'm gonna get it done. So they are not scared to create or do things, because at the end they know somehow we're always gonna get it done.
That's awesome.
You
guys really are a teamwork, yeah.
Exactly. So I love it when they say like, "Oh, I have this crazy idea. What do you think?" And I'm like, "Okay, let
The
me."
crazier, the better.
And I'm like, "Okay, let me think, let me see." And then when we put everything all together, it's like, "Okay, yeah, we can do it." So that's what they like, to be creative, to be involved, to always be like on the job sites, making sure that everything is good. And then the other side, and that's what they joke like. I'm Gru, and they're the minions. So they're basically that's our dynamic, and it's been, I think, what it makes video and motion grow, and we have seen the grow over the years, is that we all bring something to the table that probably I miss or I lack, but then my partner come, and then when they come, they uplift what I'm missing. So yeah, they didn't want to come because they are not a camera person. I'm not either, but I'm trying my best.
I appreciate 1,000%.
But if you have ever worked with us, like you will meet us, and then you will see the dynamic, and
How well you guys balance each
every
other and work
yes,
together.
and every time we work with someone, they're like, "Oh my God, they are so nice. They're this and here," or sometimes they think like we're siblings, because when you get to know us really well, it's like, oh, they these two are the same person, and then this one is not. But at the end, it's just like, I don't know, it's a weird dynamic, but somehow it works, and we are grateful to be growing every year, to have challenges, and I think what we like the most is that we try to take everything to the core and try to make it like as good as we can. And for me, what I have, like, let's say, peace of mind, is that every time I walk to a event or I'm trying to pitch something to a client, I have 100% like the knowledge, and I know that my team is so skilled that I'm not worried about it during the event. Like,
That's
I will
awesome.
worried about other stuff, but not anything technical.
You know, like the caliber is there, and that's amazing
Yes.
because you know that at the end of the day, the end result with the client is going to be of high standard. So, how long has video in motion been around?
So officially, it's been over 6 years. Bit before that, Jose and Danny, they were also working in events, but they were more towards live events. They used to be part of the crew for artists, so they will travel around the world and then be part of that production side. And
The
that's when,
concerts and things like that.
because they are used to of that craziness of like
That
what's
environment.
gonna happen, and sometimes I'm like, oh my god, something wrong is gonna happen, and you see them in the front of the house like everything is flowing, and I'm like, no, it's not, and they're like, yes. And then they just do like one or two moves in the console or anything, and it's like, see, everything is good. Or like they will explain and train our crew to be like so calm and like professional, and when we are doing the events, that I think for me, that's what I learned the most about them, that I wasn't like that. I will worry and get anxious and be like, oh my god, what is gonna happen? And now it's just like, that's
See,
easy.
that's a good balance, and I think so makes a team so successful is the fact that there's different personalities and also different traits, but
Yeah.
where one maybe you feel this way, the other person has the opposite emotion, and then you guys just balance each other out.
Yeah.
So once you guys establish, let's say, the business, which explain to everyone what Video in Motion, the company stands for, like what do you guys do? For those of you that have not seen their socials yet, explain a little bit what they do.
Okay, so who's Video and Motion, or what we do? So the name goes Video and Motion because we specialize in everything that is video and everything that moves, motion.
Yeah.
We specialize in projection mapping. There is a great technique to bring elements to life that we will go into later. And then we also do all full production, from lighting design, staging, audio, and then, of course, everything that is related with LED screens, camera system. And we also do laser shows. We have our FDA certifications, and then we do everything that is laser related.
So with that being said, I remember off camera we spoke a little about that. You did a lot of concerts, and touring with different artists, it was a focus.
Yeah.
How did you see the merge or the opportunity to be into the event industry? Like, what moment did you see that click that, they could do 3D image mapping on cakes, they could do it on structures, on floral walls, on anything. You guys could do it on anything.
Yeah.
So how did you guys see that like fuse between the two, different worlds?
I think that was a really good question. I think for us, I think it's just a moment when there is not better moment when you're in a concert and you have all the feelings when you're seeing the lighting, the images, the sound, the effects, everything is at once, and you feel like, oh my God, this is the best time. So I guess that feeling is what we kind of start incorporating in what we do. So all the technical part that we bring is skilled as if, or we treat every event as it was in a concert or like a large event. And then once we realize that the wedding industry, just in general, events, parties,
yeah. Corporate events,
corporate
social events,
they were looking for something more than just someone to put a wall and have something on the wall, to a PDF or a
to just have, instead of just having like a monogram, having actually something
Exactly.
that has more substance in a way.
Exactly. So then we just little by little, and most of the word of mouth, we start getting requests of like, hey, can you guys produce this event? This is what we have, what you guys can do. And then we start bringing elements that we used to use for touring. I mean, we still do. And then from there, we start incorporating that in regular other events, in corporate events. And then our client was like, oh, I like that idea. Can you guys do the next one? And then we'll get our recommendation. So then we realized that sometimes corporate events or other type of events were lacking that element of feeling immersive, to feeling everything. Because you can bring the right equipment, but if you don't know what to do with that equipment, you're losing your money. You're
Yeah.
wasting your time. You're not doing your job. So it's not even about like if I have the best equipment and the most expensive, is how can I utilize this equipment to get the best of it, staying in the budget of my client, but also making wow elements through the whole event. Because it's not only one time that you want to have the wow effect. You want to have different times the wow effect. So I think that's why we are trying to get more into other type of events, not only tours or live events.
Concerts, yeah.
Exactly. And then I think that's why we are also here to get to know more about the industry and to know more about like everything in general.
Yeah, and it's amazing because the way that the collaboration works, right? Like I've seen so much of your amazing work that you guys do. That one is being able to bring actual like graphics to life on a projection, whether it's like a main stage where like the couple maybe has a stage in their sweetheart table. You're able to make the motion of the flowers, dolphins swimming in the water. Like
Yeah.
it is mind blowing. Or even the spotlighting with the glitter, which I told you I'm obsessed with. Like explain a little bit of that process. That how do these ideas come to life? Because like it's so new. I feel like the 3D image mapping and everything, people have seen it a lot more in like Disney World. I feel like on the castle. If you're not familiar with 3D image mapping, a lot of you might have seen it in Disney World when they do the midnight show,
yes.
and the castle and has all those graphics. So that's kind of
Or
in
some museums,
or
they also have it.
museums, yeah, or even some for example, the Temple House in Miami does that with their venue.
Yes.
But to see it now in events and to bring that to life, what do you think has been some of the challenges in having people see that and piece it together? Because again, like they've only seen it in like a small spectrum. So how do you create that bridge between the two?
So I feel that's what I'm trying to do now. And that's where I'm trying to, when I get a new client, a new request, or like someone that is just like, oh, what is mapping? I try to explain them as much or as easy as I can. So when they see it in the future, they know exactly what we're talking about. And there are other companies too that they also do projection mapping. So even though it's a very new element to events, it's been
around.
around for a while.
As a designer and also as a future bride-to-be, I have one store that I cannot stop going to, and that's Event Decor Direct. Event Decor Direct has your one-stop shop for all decor items, from fabrics to hardware to ceiling draping to dance floor wrap prints and so much more. It is honestly obsessing how much I can just look through here and I'm like, I should add that to my event. As all of you that are listeners and viewers, you get iWet Uncut 11 as your code to get 11% off on the website. All you have to do is put iWet Uncut 11 to get 11% off. And you will see that your design process will become so much easier. So whether you're a designer, a bride-to-be, or someone who just loves the industry and loves designing, this is your one-stop shop.
So basically, what is projection mapping? Projection mapping is transforming any space that you have and bringing it to life, creating an immersive experience. So we can project on a wall, table, cakes, the ceiling, sometimes the floor. And then what you do is you create a specific content that will create the effect of 3D. And then we have an in-house designers that they will create the 2 and 3D images and the concept of the...
So anything custom.
Exactly. We also have a library in-house that we use some elements so it's easier to create content in case we need it, but then we also have someone that designs when it's something more like custom. But the idea is to create immersive experiences, to not only have you walking inside the room and feeling like, wow, this is nice because of this or this. Also, you feel like it's like kind of like
if I have an under the
you-
sea theme, you could make the whole design come to life by even make guests feeling like they're underwater.
Exactly. And then to create the immersive experience, you also need the sound. So let's say if you're walking under the sea, you also want to have a sound that is
Sounds like waves.
sounds like waves, the ocean, or if you have a dolphin or a whale, the sound of the whale. I don't know
Yeah.
how to make the sound, and I'm not gonna do it now, but
The sound, yeah.
same thing if you do anything that you can do mix with the audio, it will create a more immersive experience. Because what you eyes see and then you hear, you feel fully in that space.
That's amazing.
And also the lighting. Like, even though you don't use a lot of lighting while you're doing the whole experience, sometimes we create the content to be specific, so then you have elements of lighting here and there, so it has more movement. So I think it's a little bit of everything mixed that creates the whole immersive experience.
Yeah, for sure. And what would you say is one of the events that you've done so far that has been a bit challenging, or you've seen that kind of was a new territory that you were just like, oh my God, this is like different? Because you work a lot with planners, right? Planners, decorators, and designers. So when they give you the work or when they give you the stats of what they want, what has been a challenging thing between working with, let's say, the planner and designer and then having the final outcome at the event thus far?
Yeah, I think I don't see it as a challenge. I see it more like
An opportunity to grow?
no, it's just like, since mapping sometimes is not very known, sometimes they don't know how to
Explain
it, or they
Yes.
don't know what to expect. Because I said it many times, mapping pictures of videos, they don't make justice to what you actually experience, what you are in the room. So it's hard sometimes to the planner or to the core or whoever is in charge of the event to transition to a render and explaining the client what is mapping. And then what happens is that we try to explain, we do the rendering, and then they're expecting probably something. And when they see it, it's like, oh my God, this is way more than I expected.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a challenge. It's just hard to get them to know more about the service. And the other, that might be a challenge, but we are always kind of like known about it, is the weight of the projectors is a lot. They are heavy. So there are some venues that you are not allowed to do rigging, or the rigging that they have is probably not strong enough to hold
The
the
projector.
projectors, and then we have to do a last minute change because we were probably thinking and setting up as a rigging, and then when we get to the venue and then we do the final weight is too heavy, so then we don't want to risk it, so then we have to remove it and then do another way to still create the same effect, but
Oh,
now
that is a challenge, yeah, because so that means that when you're working with the designers or planners, they need to be also aware of like the weight capacity of, let's say, the truss installations that they have. Because each venue is different. Some venues don't even
Correct.
allow you to do a lot of this stuff, right?
Exactly. Or you are allowed to do it, but then you also have other elements on the ceiling. For example, the idea is to have as clear as you can the space on the ceiling so the image of the projector can come out and be clean.
Gotcha.
But sometimes you have venues that they have a huge chandelier, or they have these lamps that are like little, like tiny ones that, they have the ball.
Yeah.
Or they have sometimes the AC duct 100% outside because it's like a rusty kind of like look. So then you have to also manage to see how you're gonna pass that part of the ceiling without interfering, without creating shade of the wall. So, but at the end, I feel like for us, it's more like we are prepared for all those changes.
Yeah.
And even if we wanted to be perfect and be like, okay, this is gonna be here and that's how it's gonna go, sometimes it doesn't. But we always try to come up with like the best result we can, and is always meeting the expectations. And I think that's what I'm peace at. And then other challenge can be probably the loading zones. Sometimes they're not very friendly with production in general. So they are small, or there is so many vendors at the same time. When it's like, let's say sometimes a hotel that has different bathrooms, we can be using A, but also B and C are being utilized for another events and with another
Gotcha.
type of clients. And sometimes it's hard to get there. And especially with mapping, you need to take a little bit of more time setting up.
Like how long? Like let's say that I book you guys today to do this wedding I'm doing. How far, like how much time do I need to allot in terms of the space usage, right? So, because each vendor, let's say I have someone doing tables, this, and that, but time allotted for the video and motion part, like what are we looking at?
So I would love to work overnight, and that will be the best plan. But I know it's hard sometimes to get the overnight space. So we usually suggest to be the first vendor to get inside, even if they say 8, 7, 9 a.m., whatever the venue allows us. Why? Because first, the equipment is heavy, so we have to bring it in, and then we have to position the projectors.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is, this is a story so I'll tell you later. But like, what happens is you want to position the projectors in a way that they are not going to interfere with anybody walking. Let's say if you have it on a truss, they have to be high enough to cover the ceiling or the wall or whatever you want to cover. You have to position them, and then from there, the technicians, they need to make sure that when they're doing the blending and everything is on point, that the content is actually what they wanted. When we go and do the setup, we already have done a walkthrough. So we have already been to the venue, we already have measurements, we already have the content. So that's a work that we do previous to the event. So
Right.
when we get to the event, it's already like, okay.
You're prepared.
Work,
You're not just
exactly.
walking in blindly. Yeah.
Because there are little elements. For example, you need to blend out a wall, but there is a column or there is a door. So you also need to blend that part to merge it and be part of the content, or like map it out. So those little elements, you need to know it way before you go and set up. But once we set up during the morning, then if the event is by 5 p.m., 4 p.m., is gonna be ready.
Okay.
And then some challenges that they happened, it happened to us once. And that's why I always encourage whoever hire us to make sure that nobody moves things around. So we went the night before because they allowed us to go in and we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. We went in, we set up our trusses and everything, and they were nice and perfect. When we got in the next day to make sure that everything was good, they moved.
Another vendor moved it?
They moved the whole truss with the projectors and everything to another, like, I guess.
And it was already set, I imagine.
It was already set up. It was
Yeah.
like we only went the next day earlier to make sure that
Everything was
everything was good.
intact. Yeah.
But it was already mapped, set up, had everything on point. Like there was nothing to worry
do,
about.
yeah.
So the next day we wouldn't worry about anything. When we got there, let's say if the projector needed to be here, somehow it was here because
And that threw off
it was
everything, the measurements, everything.
So we were like, oh my God.
How'd you deal with that?
I guess we just kind of like move everything again around and then we just map it again. But those are little things that, I mean, nobody knew about it. Like,
Did you ever find out who did it?
no, like,
Oh, no.
at the end I was like, I just want to get over it with. Like, I wasn't like thinking about it. I was just very, yeah, I was scared. I was like, oh my God, like, what if this doesn't come up on
Yeah.
time? Because at the end we promised this and this, and then now we have, and it was an easy mistake to do because at the end sometimes you don't know and you just move something and then that's it.
Yeah.
But for us it was something
huge deal, yeah.
Exactly. But a lot of people don't know how big it is because you only focus on what you're doing. So at the end we did it all over again. It went back and then it was perfect, but we just make sure. So now when we go to some events and we know we have some vendors, I'm always walking around and be like, hey, if you see this, please don't move it.
Yeah, let
or
them
things
know.
like that. And now it's getting more common. So sometimes now they know and they're like, oh, okay, they're doing projection. So now they kind of like know. But that was one that I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do?
Oh my God. So when you're working with, let's say, the planner or designer, what are some things they must know ahead of time to provide for you guys so that way you feel comfortable in taking on the job? Because, like, let's say, hey, I call you, I'm like, hey, I want to, add video, 3D image mapping to this event. What are the things that I must know in order to relay that information to you so that way you not just, oh, hey, I want 3D image mapping and it's like I want it on this wall, and you're gonna I assume from there you're gonna be like, okay, what's the size of the wall, where's the location, like what are the specs needed in order to make that transaction happen?
Okay, so for us to be able to give you a quote or to do the job, we need to know the venue. We have worked in most of the venues here in Miami, so we kind of know. And Jose and Danny are very skilled in that, so I don't know how, but they remember a lot of details, like technical details of the venues. And they're like, oh, this venue, oh yeah, that wall is, I don't know how. I still write down everything. So we will need exactly like to know what's the venue or what is the surface that you want to map, either if it's going to be one wall, two walls, if you're going to do the floor or if you're going to do tables, so we know exactly how many projectors we need. We also need to know what type of content or what is it that you want to do. Usually we also work with planners, designers along designing and helping them, but sometimes we do get requests that they already have most of the event set up and they just want to add
Oh, they want to
mapping.
add, yeah.
Because at the end they think like, oh, I just don't want to probably like drape or decor the whole room. I'll just rather do this. So then they just come when they already have most of the event design, which is fine. For us, it doesn't make any sense. But basic that we need is to know the measurements of the wall, to know if they're gonna be rigging or if the venue or the client is not paying for rigging, then we will have to do it on trusses.
Truss towers.
And then
yeah.
exactly, and then know the plans or the whole layout of the event.
Like what's going where, because
Exactly.
like tables, chairs, and
Correct. And then
layout.
if they're gonna have any high decor, because sometimes what it happens is it creates shadows.
well, like grand center pieces that are really tall.
Exactly. So for that we need to know. So when we create the content or whatever we're gonna do, we can create something like a layer to not create as much shadow as the decor can be, and then you can still have your decor and the mapping. So it's very basic. It's just knowing the measurements, and then we always ask for a walkthrough because we want to make sure that how we're gonna get in, how we're gonna hang. We always ask about the power. The power of the projectors is.
I was gonna say, I'm like, the power source. When you get to that power source part, how do you test it out and everything, but have you ever run into the problem where it's like it's not sufficient?
Yes.
And then like, what do you do then? Like,
Yeah. So the power of the projectors is 220, and most of the venues or places they have 110, or their breakers are not big enough,
or maybe like it's an older venue, right?
Exactly. I think it's more with older, like the new ones. They have a lot of outlets. They have 220. They have the feeders, the breakers, so you can like kind of like solve it. But most of the old ones is where sometimes the problem comes, because it's not only us that are using power. It's also if we're doing the whole production, we also have the audio, the screens, the lighting, and though they don't take much at the end, if you put everything together, it's
a lot.
It's a lot just for the menu to not be able to take it. So we usually suggest sometimes doing a power plant. That usually sometimes the venues have it because they already know that, or we just bring it because we have our power plant too. Because we realize that sometimes for some projects it was hard to find the right power. Mm-hmm. So to just be sure, we just
you guys have your own.
And then from there, and we always talk to the client and the venue about like our requests, and it's like, hey, if you want to have this, make sure that you have this and this, because it happened to us once that they wanted to do projection mapping. We were already doing the full production, but they wanted to add the projection mapping. But when we checked the venue didn't have enough power to cover everything. So even if we try, we were risking to at some point get a blackout. So it was better to say no to the project than just take it and then probably risk my liability and then also my clients. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, most of the times we get everything done before the walkthrough.
Okay, good, because since it's newer, I feel like it's newer to the event industry because most planners or designers are not knowledgeable enough in that field, right? Mm-hmm. Especially when you say like concert level and things, people get scared, like, oh my God.
Yes.
But I think it's an amazing component to add to any event because, you add all the florals, the decor, the draping, the lighting, the design, all that. But then bring in the emotional ambiance aspect. It takes it to another level.
Yes.
So with that being said, you're working with, all these different venues. What are some of the new trends that you're seeing that people really are adding to their events? Like, I know the one with the spotlight, what do you call it? There's a name for it. I'm not aware of it, but I saw it and I was like, this is so cool. What is it that follows?
That is actually light. That's a laser. So we also do laser shows, and we specialize in that as well. We used to do, we still do tours with the laser show for the artist, but now everybody is also merging into the events. So this idea is hanging on the ceiling, and then you get the spotlight, and then the laser is 30 watts. 20 watts, 15 watts, depending of the equipment that you have. And then you just have your couple doing the first dance, and then you use fog to create effect, and then it's just like a halo. So we call it the halo laser. I don't know what other companies call it. Yeah. But then we realized that once we start posting it, a lot of other companies, they also wanted to incorporate that in their sales and in their events. And I think it's so cool because there are elements from like touring that not everybody is aware of that they can also use for events. And that is what I think like it makes it be like different. Like I know every designer has his own designs and elements, but also bringing like technology and like different like elements of production. Taking it to another level, is another level. And like every year it changes. Like it's still being a classic event is good, but I feel like especially in Miami, the more you have, the more production, the more LED screen you have, the more lighting you have, your event is gonna be the top, or like that's what they like. So I feel like having a company that can bring all the technology to your event, it will make the difference that when probably you don't have the whole technology
Yeah.
in there. And then yeah, that's just a laser show. That was only like one laser, but you can also do just regular like laser show and then create waves and different effects with the lighting that you will also use with regular wash lights, up lights, and all that. So you combine everything, and the idea is to create different like to make your guests feel a wave of emotions while they are having fun, because you will use your wash lights and your up lights and the different moving heads and everything throughout sometimes of the event, and then you throw them with the laser show, and it's like you see the lights here and everything is hitting, and you're like, oh my god, I'm in like electronic music festival, but now you're just in a venue in downtown.
Yeah. That's amazing how that all those components work together. And so does that mean for those, especially, to anyone that's interested in it and, having this for their event, does that mean that your team would have to stays throughout the event to control the equipment and everything like that? So that's also something that people need to know.
Yes, 100%. Everything that we do, we set up, and then we always have a technician and a runner in our events. And also, you will see me or Danny or Jose saying also throughout the night, because we want to make sure that everything is good. And then our technicians will, let's say if we're doing a full production, so we will have the stage. And the stage, we have all the LED screens and then the lighting for the whole event. And then we have the laser show and even mapping, because you can have everything in your event if you want. Then I will have a technician for each. I have my laser guy.
So there's a tech for each different focus.
Yes, I have my laser guy that he's only focusing on laser. And then I have my video guy that he's running all the content and everything for the video.
Screens.
Exactly. He can run projection mapping in the screens, because at the end they are content and they all go align. And then I have my lighting guy making sure that everything is neat. But the idea is to have your technicians running what they are supposed to, because sometimes like everything needs to be very like a choreography.
It is a choreography. It's like there's a timeline for everything, and there's a space.
So I cannot have, for example, my lighting guy doing the video, because what if? And I mean, there are events that you can have a technician doing multiple tasks at the same time, and they are very skilled, and I'm sure they can do it. But for our peace of mind, we always try to have lighting for lighting and video for video.
Yeah, because what if they want the spotlight, and then they also want their video of this, and then the fog. Like, it's just so many parts.
And it's not just that. Like, you need to be prepared, because it's a live event. So, and it was built by humans. So anything can happen.
Yeah.
So let's say if something goes wrong and I only have one technician, how is he going to be able to go and fix whatever is wrong and still run the show? But if I have my lighting guy and my video guy, at least one can run the show while the other one is fixing or trying to get a hold of whatever is happening. So that's also to make sure that the client and their guest, they never see anything going on while the show.
None of the behind the scenes
Exactly.
little hiccups. They don't see none of that.
As a designer and also as a future bride-to-be, I have one store that I cannot stop going to, and that's Event Decor Direct. Event Decor Direct has your one-stop shop for all decor items, from fabrics to hardware to ceiling draping to dance floor wrap prints and so much more. It is honestly obsessing how much I can just look through here and I'm like, I should add that to my event. As all of you that are listeners and viewers, you get iWet Uncut 11 as your code to get 11% off on the website. All you have to do is put iWet Uncut 11 to get 11% off. And you will see that your design process will become so much easier. So whether you're a designer, a bride-to-be, or someone who just loves the industry and loves designing, this is your one-stop shop.
And what would you say with, running your business, what has been some of the most rewarding, like, what are the two most rewarding things and what has been the two most challenging things to those of you that are, want to pursue being an entrepreneur?
Uh, I think it's not a challenge, but it's just hard to sometimes. Well, for me, I don't see it as a challenge, but I've talked about it with other frienders that sometimes they find it as a challenge. It's just hard to get the right client or to get to know your business, to get to know people, the right service that you want for them. Because we don't want to be just a company that you just come and then they just come, they just give you the equipment and then they leave. We want to like be with you throughout the whole process, make sure that whatever we are doing, you are okay with that your client is happy. So I feel like it takes a little longer to build that type of relationships and and get that type of client that is okay with me probably like calling you, making sure that everything is good, and then probably other companies that they just have massive requests and they just send everything. So for me, I think that's the challenge that I find, that is just sometimes meeting the right planner, designer, vendor, whatever, to do the event with. Is hard just because it's so many good people also. Like it's not that we are the only company that is around there, or like the only one that is doing mapping or lasers. There is so many companies that also do mapping, that lasers, that they do lighting, that they do everything that we do. But I think once you find your right niche, the right client, the right person, the right elements that you want to work with, then it flows. But it takes time. So
Yeah.
that and yeah, and then COVID, it was also challenging for us. But at the same time, we didn't see it as a challenge, and this time we saw it as an opportunity. And then we created a carpool cinema. So it was
that?
so during COVID, everybody was locked down and you couldn't go out or do anything. But then Danny and Jose, they knew someone that owned they were he's the owner of a parking lot, and then they also know someone that it was owner of a restaurant, that it was in the same area. And they were like, hey, why don't we just combine all of this and then we create a cinema, since we can do anything.
So like, what is it, like drive, like the drive?
It was a drive-through,
Like a- like, yeah, like a-
70, 80s.
like, oh, like where people would go with their cars and then watch movies from their vehicle. Oh, that's kind of cool.
So
Yeah.
so
During COVID.
we utilized the parking lot of our friend that he wasn't using because nobody can go out and park. The restaurant was somehow getting some sales, and then we were using our equipment because we have our screen, that it was a huge screen, showing the movies. And then I was doing the popcorn and selling M&Ms, and then we will get like sold
That's
out
amazing. This is so
nights.
cool.
Like
You guys found a way to weather the storm through COVID.
exactly. So it was a challenge, because it was like, okay, this is kind of to start like picking up. This is a good season. What is gonna happen? We have all this equipment. We have the warehouse. We have all this to pay. What are we gonna do? And then having that opportunity, I think like first like it builds your character,
Yeah.
and then it made us stronger. And then now it's like whatever issue we have, we're gonna solve it. I mean, we did it somehow. And then we were having 60-40 cars per night. We had two showings, one at 7 a.m. and one at like 10. And it was amazing. We stayed in business thanks to that, because if not, we wouldn't be able to.
That is so
to pay.
impressive.
And then we were also blessed to collab with other people, and they were also getting somehow
Business.
business.
You guys were all helping each other and made a very profitable business in that time frame, because it's
Yeah.
true, people were getting bored out of their mind being home, and then that kind of is nostalgic because it's a classic take on
Exactly. And
drive-through
all the movies were old.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like any, like, new titles. Everything was like Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, like very old, like
Classic,
title
yeah.
classic. Yeah, and then you can listen to the movie in your car with the radio because we have the station and every. So it was like pro. And then when you were walking in, I was saying like, "Hi, welcome."
Yeah.
And we had the cones to know which car it was. We built a website so you can
What?
order food. And I was in the back making the popcorn, and then
That's
Danny was probably
amazing.
getting like the sodas, and Jose was putting the video, and it was a whole work. But it was like you have to.
You find
somehow
money, make
a way.
money.
Yes.
And then you all did it together as well, which, like you said, it helped build character, but also you stayed in business through a very tough time, I think, for a lot of people in the event industry because
Yeah,
It's tough.
and it was, I think, not it wasn't about the money. I feel it was more about like our mental health and feeling that you were useful, that you were doing something, that like we were only opening Thursday through Sunday, but for me on Monday it was like I'm looking forward to go to the cinema and then like eat some popcorn and like do something, and that helped so much. And I think it was a challenge, but it's also one of my very good memories that I can say like, oh wow. And we also go back to it and we talk about it. It's like, oh my God, how we were able to pull that off. Like it was all of the sudden, but it is a good memory. And thinking about another good one, I will say the first time that I produced a whole tour, like my first tour, um, we got a call from, so Danny worked or he knew someone from the industry, and because of word of mouth they knew like we were growing, so they were in South America and they were coming here to the United States, and it was their first US tour.
Who was it?
It was Faith.
Oh, Fade, yeah.
And he's from Colombia, so I was
Yeah.
like, okay.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, he's huge.
Yeah, he is huge now. But when he came, like the first time he came, he was actually big.
Yeah.
So for us, it was like, oh my God, he is big. But now he's like insane big.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was his first tour. And we got the call. It wasn't anything that we were expecting or we were prepared for, to be honest, because we were focusing more in like other projects. And we got the call and they were like, hey, so I remember this like yesterday. We were on a bat mitzvah, and then we got the call, and then Danny's like, guys, I guess we're going on tour. And we're like, what? He's like, yeah, we have 1 week to prepare everything because
And you were going on his U.S. tour?
yes,
With him?
as a full production. And we were like, what? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, well, Susie, start working, get your stuff. And I was like, oh my God. And then we pulled it off. We had a whole week, which is nothing. And we're a small business. It's not like we are a PRG or like a huge company that they have a lot of stuff. And then getting all the logistics, all the permits, all the venues, everything, like
Oh my God.
making sure that whatever they requested, we have it. And there were things that we didn't have because the company was growing. So there are probably equipment that we didn't own. So probably like renting that and making sure that we were in the budget that the client wanted. So it
And
was,
making sure it's aligned with his image and branding because he has a specific, like with the neon green,
yes.
like he has a
Yeah,
look
yeah.
and branding, like all these things you have to consider. And in a week time.
Yeah. Well, in this case, he already had like his brand and his design, so it was good. But to other artists, we helped them out with the design, and then it was they just, and then we were starting in Atlanta. It was the first show, and I just remember there was a problem with the truck because everything goes from here, like, or wherever you're based, and everything traveled in trucks. And I was in charge of everything. So I had Danny and Jose already in Atlanta, like waiting for the truck with our laborers and our crew members and everybody, like just waiting for the truck. And then I get a call from my driver, and he's like, hey, Susana, so we have an issue. He needed to be there by 9 p.m. 9 a.m. And he was like, yes, we had an issue, and I don't think I'm going to make it by 9. I was like, okay, how long do you think it's going to take you? And he's like, probably like a couple of hours, around 11. And I was like,
That pushes back like a lot of
Okay,
things.
so then I had Jose and Danny calling me like, "What's going on? What happened?" I was like, "Okay, this is what is going on. Tell the client that he's gonna arrive at 11." Da, da, da. By 11 a.m., he calls me. He's like, "Susana, major problem. There is a, I don't know what happened, but they closed a road, and nobody was allowed to go. So all the trucks were like
Being
being
detoured.
detoured, like to take another route." And I was
That could
like,
prolong the time frame
I
even
was like,
more.
okay, so around what time are you gonna get there? Around 3 p.m.
And what time was the show?
7.
I'd be
And I
freaking
was
out
like,
inside.
Jesus Christ, please help me out. And I was like, okay. So I guess I didn't, at this point, and I was, believe me, I was like white, shaking. I don't know what else to do. I was like, we're gonna lose this. And I was blaming myself because, like, why did I do this? Why did I hire this driver? And I was thinking that it was my fault, which it wasn't. It was just things that can happen.
Mhm.
It wasn't anything wrong. But, like, in that moment, your mind is
Racing.
exactly. And I had Danny, Jose calling me, the client, So it was a lot of things going on. I was like, oh my God. And then I tell them, like, you guys, this is going to be at 3 p.m. So get ready to either, I don't know what is going to happen. So I was like, I'll lead you guys until 3 p.m. and then from there you take it because I don't know what to do. Because in that time I was in Miami because we had other
Events.
projects and other,
Yeah.
exactly, and they were there. And I was like, okay. So the driver got at 3 p.m. and they were opening doors around, like, I think it was 7 or 6.
Mhm.
Yeah, 7. They were opening doors at 7. And they were like, okay. And I remember, I don't know who the guys was, if it was Danny or Jose. And they were like, you know what? We're going to have this ready by 7. And all our guys, our crews and everything, they got their hands on. And then they opened
Stressed,
doors.
I imagine.
Exactly. And they opened doors at like 6:59. And I think it was one of the best, like, venues and shows that we did for that specific tour. Like, the energy of the people was amazing. Nothing went wrong. And the fact that we were able to pull that in like 4 hours is like unloading, putting up the screens, doing the lightings, setting up, doing everything. Because at the end, we don't only do the production. The idea is that when the crew from the artist gets to the venue to receive what we did, they only plug their 2 or 3 USBs or whatever they have, and everything is set up. We didn't want them to worry about, like, oh my God, my lighting is not going to be ready, or
Everything's
my
already
video
set.
exactly
Down
So
to the spotlight that's going on the artist,
Everything-
the screens, the cues, all
exactly
of that.
everything needs to be set up.
Yeah.
So when the BJ or the lighting guy for the artist comes, is like, oh, nice, boom, I'm ready to do my show. And that was very stressful. But at the end, we pull it off. It was, I mean, it was a hiccup, a huge. But at the end, like,
But you guys made the show.
we made it.
No
and-
matter what, the show must go on.
and then we
obviously.
finished it. It was like 14 dates that we did throughout the whole U.S. And I was able to, like, pull up all the permits, do everything. So at the end, it was like, I think it's one of my most, like, I still, like, I remember that day and I'm like, oh my God. But at the same time, it's like, not that proof how my team is capable of. Like, the fact that we were able to pull that off in like 4 hours and have everything like as good as it was like, after this, it's like, I'm not worried about anything.
Anything. You're
my
like,
team.
everything else is gonna
we
be-
can do anything. Like, if they say, oh, but this is impossible, not for us. Like, after that, it's like, and then that led us to go, like, again with them on tour and, like,
Yeah, and I was
again.
just gonna ask, like, what are some other events that you've done, like, just to give them an idea, because I know you've done Latin Grammys and everything like that, but what have been some other ones that you're just like, oh my God, like on the inside? Obviously, you're never on the outside.
So we so for, like, touring and all that, we did well, Fate for me was big just because he was from my city, and I was like, okay, some Colombian gang, because Danny and Jose are from Venezuela, so it's like always like a competition, like what the arepa is from. And
Yeah.
I'm like, it's Colombian. They're like, no, the arepa is Venezuelan. So I was like, okay, I was very happy about that one. We had, I remember when we did a projection mapping for UN. That was also something that we were looking forward for like a long time,
Yeah.
to like get to work with like institute or like
The huge institution the
exact-
University of
exactly.
Miami is, absolutely.
So we were looking like, and we were talking about it for like years, and we were like, oh, I think we will made it when we do this, and then all of the sudden we were doing something for them. Doing tours led us to do the laser show for Pitbull this year, and that sent us to another side of, let's say, niche, because we do a lot of Latin, because we are all from like South America. But I think like working with someone like Pitbull, it gets you to another niche, because he's like the Daddy Yankee of
He's
the
an
United
international
States.
artist,
He's an international guy.
Yeah,
Like,
who doesn't know
he's-
about Pitbull?
Exactly,
Yeah.
he's Mr. 305. So doing the laser show for him, like through the whole tour, and being able to, you know, be part of his crew and give them a service, it was like, oh wow, this is a big milestone for the team.
Sure.
And then I think like, I don't know why, but I love every event. For me, it's like I take it everything to like the core. So even if it's small, big, it doesn't matter. Like every day I go home and it's like, oh my God, that event was amazing. And then the next week I will say the same, like, oh my God, that event was amazing.
But that shows also like how like I think passionate you are about what you do, which I think is something that I think a lot of the listeners can relate to, or even some of the students that we've had. That the number one thing I always try to tell them in the class is that each event you do, you take on, doesn't matter if it was like if you think about when you first start, right?
Yeah.
Like my first ever $300 event to like the top dollar of working for like the Estefan family, to me it's the same thing, because each project you give your everything to.
Yes, 100%.
You know, because that's what makes you have caliber in your work, because you're prideful of your work. Like you love what you do, so you give your best foot forward. So that's amazing, and I think you solidify that because, again, we tell students all the time, doesn't matter what event, you just always do your best.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we're gonna keep trying to giving our best every time we can. Sometimes it happens that even if you try, there are other elements that probably didn't help you that much for that event. But at the end, it's everything about the experience. And I feel like if your guest, they leave remembering your event, your date, and they remember that, you did a good job.
It was successful.
If like every time they remember, oh, I remember, I don't know, whoever's it was amazing, then your part as a vendor, it was done. Because at the end, yeah, you won your first. I mean, the final client is, in my case, not what I quote unquote will care, because I work more with like planners and designers and other type of events. But we do also get word of mouth from someone that it was on the wedding or the event that they like whatever they saw, so they come to us.
Yeah.
So that's where I think like having everybody happy.
Yeah,
like,
because it's not just
having
about the
that
client, it's the guests. It's like everyone that was at the event, that they felt like they were taken to whatever place or ambiance that was, you know, the goal to be shown at the end, whether it's like underwater, winter wonderland, whatever it is. I think that's amazing, and it can be done through the ambiance. So as you saw all those photos and different videos, now Susanna, before we even close out the segment, tell me, what would you advise to anyone that wants to be an entrepreneur and a business owner? What would be the advice you give them?
Just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to step out of the comfort zone, and don't be afraid to work. I feel like we are getting into a generation, and I don't want to cause any drama, that I've noticed that it's a little harder to sometimes work with, because I don't know, but in my house, in my background, and my team, we are very like work motive, and I think that's where it gets you to places. It doesn't mean that you need to work harder, but you need to work smarter.
Yeah.
You need to know where to put your energy to so you can grow, but you have to step out of your comfort zone 100%. And I feel like for me, that was the case. I was comfortable in a place, and I was good with marketing and whatever I was doing, but then walking into video and motion, it challenged me every day in different ways but I'm always with my open mind and my open heart to take that challenge and learn and then try to step up. So don't be afraid, and don't be afraid to be creative. Sometimes we don't know we're creatives because it happened to me, and I think I mentioned it, and we talked about it. I didn't know I could be creative, or I could like have ideas or tell a client, hey, this is what we should do, or what do you think about this?
Yeah.
Because I was always very like uptight, or like this corporate or this person.
You're very
But then-
corporate oriented.
Exactly, which I still am in a lot of ways, to my peace of mind, but I also have now that freedom of like, what if we do this? And I think like sometimes we are afraid of that because we have never stepped out of the comfort zone. If I have never walked into video and motion and had the opportunity to create, to build, to know this industry, I will have never known what I could be able to do.
Yeah.
I will probably still be doing the same thing and being comfortable, but I will have never lived at peace or like as free as I am right now.
Yeah.
Because that's what at the end you want to do. Like you want to work and do things that you're passionate about, that you want to do every day, that you don't want to like, oh, it's Monday. No, like
Oh, it's Monday. I have to go do this.
Exactly.
You want to love what you do. You be passionate about it.
Exactly. Every Monday, I'm excited to go to the office. Every Friday, I'm excited to go to the office. Saturday, I'm excited. So it's just don't be afraid. Get out of your comfort zone. Work hard, and yeah, and just hope that with hard work you're gonna get to where you're gonna get at some point. But you will get there.
Awesome. I love that. And to end it, I guess, what is a mantra or quote or anything that you kind of live by that you'd want to share with our audience? Because those are powerful, especially in moments that, like, get a little tough.
Yeah. Well, so for me, I will say is lo peor es lo mejor que puede pasar, or in Spanish is like the worst thing is the best thing that could happen. Because at the end is like whatever thing happened to you, it was for your best. Even if you think it's bad, it's also for your good.
Yeah.
So I think that will be my mantra.
I love that because in business, I think everyone always worries about making mistakes, but through mistakes or through all of that, it's actually lessons, and it's setting you up for new successes, because those failures also make you stronger and also make you more bold. So I love that quote, and thank you again for
Thank you so
being a
much.
guest today.
Thank you.
So make sure everyone to follow, like, and subscribe. I Would Uncut on YouTube. And also to anyone who is listening, I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to put a thumbs up and also follow us. And also make sure to follow Suzette, who will have all her social media handle below for the company. And
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you guys for having me. It was amazing. I was so scared at the beginning. I didn't know what to
You
do.
did amazing.
I need a little extra when we start when we start here. But now it's like, I love it. And yeah, thank you so much for what you guys are doing. I think like just bringing this space to a lot of like creatives and planners and vendors is a safe space. It's amazing, guys. When you walk in, it's like the best vibes, the best.
Thank you, Suzette.
They are so welcome and warm, so you feel like you are comfortable, and I think that's so important. So what you guys are doing is amazing. So
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Everyone, thank you again, Susanna. Like, write down below, comment any questions you have. And again, what you guys are doing is amazing. Make sure to check out their social media handles, and also make sure to check out their website. And to all you designers and planners, don't be afraid to take an extra bold step by adding, the video and motion aspect to your next event experience, because it really will elevate it to the next level. So thank you, everyone, and till the next episode.
bye, guys.
Bye.